just like that, we're back off the first pay-per-view of the weekend. Hello, I am Matt Anderson. On the right side of your screen, you have my longtime friend, the other half of this podcast, Dorian Rose. How are you doing today, man?
Doing good, man. There was a hell of a lot of good fights last night, man, and I'm still buzzing off those two, the top two fights on the card, man. It was really good.
Definitely a crazy night of fights, or at least the main card was. It was wild. I enjoyed it. You enjoyed it. I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown of today's show just before we get started. So up first, we're going to talk about the whole card itself. I'm going to give you guys all the results, and then we're going to announce our pick champion for the week, and just anything else on the card that Dorian or myself found on the card interesting. And then we're going to talk about the main fight itself, Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor 2, the takeaways, where we go from here. And then up next, we will talk about Dan Hooker versus Michael Chandler. And wow, did Michael Chandler make a statement coming into the UFC. And then is a perfect segue into Khabib. Michael Chandler called out Khabib. Do we think he's going to come back off this performance? Dana White had a little bit to say after the fights at the press conference. And then lastly, we will be talking about, once again, the 155 title picture. Where is it going? Who's going to be the champ? What all is happening? We're going to talk about it. But before we get started, if you guys wouldn't mind, please hit a like on this video just to show your support. We spent a lot of time and efforts and money now, since it being the first pay-per-view of the year, watching these fights. I spent a lot of time editing, so please put a thumbs up on this video. And if you're not subscribed to the channel yet, Dorian, what are they doing? What are they doing? Subscribe to the channel. Help us out. Help us out. Help us grow. Alright, up first on today's show, we are going to be recapping this weekend's fight card, UFC 257, Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier. We're going to talk about what happened. So, just the results real quick on the rundown. Dustin Poirier defeats Conor McGregor in the second round, TKO via punches. Up next, Michael Chandler defeats Dan Hooker. First round, super quick fight, and did he make a statement? Up next, Joanne Calderwood defeats Jessica Ai. Third round, unanimous decision. Mahmoud Muradov. Let me try this again. Mahmoud Muradov defeats Andrew Sanchez. TKO. I didn't see that one coming, if I'm going to be honest. And Marina Rodriguez. Wow, performance of the night bonus as well. Knocks out Amanda Hebus. I'm sorry, Marina Rodriguez at first. I misspoke, but it's okay. And then we're going to go on to the prelims just real quick. Arman Tsarukyan defeats Matt Frevola. Man, he put on a display. Brad Tavares defeats Antonio Carlos Jr. Juliana Pena defeats Sarah McMahon. I didn't see this one coming. Marcin Pragniel defeats Khalil Roundtree Jr. And the earliest prelims of them all, Nick Lentz loses to Mosar Evloev, and Amir Albazi defeats Zalguis Zalmagulev. How do you like those pronounced? After I hear John Anik say it once, I'm solid after that. Alright, Dorian, aside from the main two fights on this card, was there anything that stood out from this card that you just wanted to talk about to begin with?
Yeah, I think that the performance of Marina Rodriguez, because she was getting held down in the first round and getting controlled. Now, she was doing a good job in staying neutral and not getting too much ground and pound or too many submission attempts from Rodriguez, but she definitely lost the first round. And for her to be able to turn around in the second round and lay that bomb of a right hand on her and get her out of there, and Herb Dean really dropping the ball on that when Rodriguez is going for the finish, and Herb Dean goes to step in, she walks away, and he's like, well, I didn't stop the fight, and that could have really came back to haunt her if Hebos had got her wits about her after she had gotten rocked. Like, that could have been a really big controversy, and thank goodness it wasn't, and yeah, that was a beautiful knockout.
On the Herb Dean topic itself, it was one of two times of the night I just was like, what are you doing? Like, Herb, like, either do your job or get out of the way. He's like half in, half out. Two times, but we'll talk about the other one. So yes, I agree with you. She pretty much knocked her out twice. But in the first round, one thing that I just noticed, Amanda Heba's striking is just not there. She was coming to her flailing like with her arms. I'm like, oh, this is not going to go good, because what I pointed out to you in the preview Wednesday was like Marina Rodriguez's striking was nothing like to joke around with. She had good striking stats, and Amanda Hebus, I just knew from her Paige fight that she kind of looked a little like she wasn't there fully on the striking, and it really showed tonight. Anything else from like the card that you just want to touch on, like before you let me start spouting off about what I think about the card?
I like the Meredov fight. Him and Andrew Sanchez. His striking looked really clean, and him coming over the top of that right. And it was funny because they ended up going into the corner of Andrew Sanchez, and his coach even said, "I do not like that right hand coming over the top." And as soon as his coach said that, he came over the top with it, and he cracked Sanchez and got him out of there. And that was a good performance by him as well.
Definitely. I didn't see Andrew Sanchez getting knocked out like that, because Andrew Sanchez is sneaky good. For those of you who don't know, he actually won the Ultimate Fighter. I don't know how many seasons ago it was, but so Andrew Sanchez is good, and man, does he have a set of hair on him. But definitely also a contender to watch out for, Marcin Progniel. This dude striking, he honestly didn't get tired. He started low. He just worked his way up the entire fight. He showed that he has impressive striking skills. So I will take it that is all you kind of want to mention from the card, Dorian.
I'm ready to dive into
all right, please just let me talk about how I feel about this main card. First, or just the card itself. First of all, Jessica Ai herself really kills me right now, because I really thought that she was going to get this done over Joanne Calderwood. After my post weigh-in fight bet picks, I really thought she was going to get this done. I had an 8-leg parlay, and she was the one fight out of that entire parlay that just ruined it all. I had actually had Michael Chandler winning on that parlay, and I had like the Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor going under 2.5, which everyone knows it did at this point. So she ruined that. It was, like I said, an 8-leg parlay, which that is like plus like 20,000 at that point. It is a huge parlay. I put very little money on it and was able to win a whole lonesome amount if I did win that. So it hurts me just a little bit. But aside from those main two fights, I do want to go down to the prelims for just a second. Point out the Matt Frevola versus Armin Tsarukyan fight. Man, Matt Frevola cannot get a break, can he? Matt Frevola weighed in, made weight. He looked disappointed when he made weight, but that's because at the point of him weighing in, he didn't have an opponent. His opponent was sneaking people in to Fight Island. What was he doing there? So this dude is immediately cut from the UFC. So when weighing in, Matt Frevola did not have an opponent. But Armin Tsarukyan's opponent pulled out as well. So these two end up fighting each other. Armin Tsarukyan coming in, I think a minus 700 favorite. This dude was a huge favorite over the steamroller Matt Frevola. I was just rooting for him the entire fight. I did not have money on him, because just seeing those betting odds, I was like, oh no, this is not going to work. So shout out to Matt Frevola for just staying in the fight. He was giving it his all. This dude has heart. And then Juliana Pena versus Sarah McMahon. Juliana Pena had the nerves to call out Amanda Nunes. Like, I was like, oh no.
You gotta shoot your shot.
Oh no, but Jesus, man. I don't even want to see that, dude. I don't want to see Juliana Pena, the Venezuelan vixen, get murked by Amanda Nunes. That is just something that is not on my forecast of things that I would like to watch. Aside from that, that's about it, Dorian. We're going to jump into these two main fights. So up first, we're going to talk about Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor. Number 2, I know you're just at your leash, just ready to go. So tell me about this one. What do you have to say about this fight? The performance that Dustin Poirier, I don't want to say too much because I don't know what you have to say and I don't want to give away my hand. The performance that Dustin Poirier had against Conor McGregor.
Yeah, I thought it was a spectacular performance. He started off that first round a little slow, like he typically does. I think a big point in him was literally getting past the 60-second mark. I think that was mentally something that he was making sure that he could do, and that's why he went for that takedown as early as he did. And he was trying to make sure that he could wear on Conor, gas him a little bit, because Conor is a fast starter, and he came out bombs away, just like he always does at the start of the fight. And Dustin did a really good job by taking him down and getting a lot of cage control and neutralizing him. And Dustin even had some shoulders of his own that he was throwing at Conor while they had him on the cage. There toward the end of the first round, Conor was landing some big shots, and it seemed like Dustin, his whole demeanor was like he was so calm, and I just kept saying that it just almost didn't seem right because he was too calm. But Conor was landing some good shots there at the end of the first round, and Dustin was kind of, he wasn't losing his composure, which was a good thing for him. But I got worried for him because I thought that Conor was going to land one of those big shots and get him out of there. But he was able to take the shots, and then going into the second round, which he was doing a lot in the first round as well, but was landing the leg kicks. And, man, it took away from Conor's mobility. And for him to be able to really land on those shots like he wants to. And he wasn't able to avoid the shots that Dustin was able to throw. And then just that finishing sequence, just him getting Conor against the fence. Dustin's finishing instincts, the way he finished Justin Gaethje, just throwing the combos at him relentlessly and just getting him against the cage and battering him. The way he finished Eddie Alvarez, getting him against the fence and just battering him, throwing combos, and the way that he was able to go in there against Conor and get him against the cage after he had neutralized his leg and just throw those combos on him and get him out of there. The dude's killer instinct is just out of this world, and he put on a spectacular performance.
Okay, so I feel like me and you might have just a little bit of viewpoints on how this fight went. Personally, I watched the fight 3 times now. I watched the fight last night, obviously, like when it first happened, just as a fan. I watched it this morning again with audio, and then I just thought that I should just watch it again, like without audio. So about 20 minutes ago, I watched it just again. The fight's not very long, so pretty easy to watch. But what I did notice is when I rewatched it with the audio, already knowing what had happened, DC and John Anik and Paul Felder are heavily leaning, like they're just talking up Conor so much. So after I watched it again with the sound, I was like, I have to watch this just like with no sound on, just like so I can watch what actually happens. Like, because anytime Conor would land anything, they would be like, oh, that's a huge one, So like the announcers do play a small factor, like especially if you don't really know like what you're watching. So after I watched it again with no sound, I still feel like Conor won the entire first round that he wasn't on the ground, like because from the point that he got taken down, he got up. He either had Dustin Poirier pinned up against the fence, or he was out in the open, and he did hit him with, I would say, at least 10 solid shots that entire round. And Dustin Poirier, I think, maybe landed one counter left hook, right hook, I'm not sure. One, like he did land one counter hook that like entire round. So I was like, okay, that's a good round for Conor, even with no sound. I was like, I still think Conor won that round. And then the second round, Conor came out, Dustin Poirier right there, right in his face, ready to go once again. And to start off, Conor McGregor took the center of the cage, backed Dustin Poirier up, and was just like the first round. What I realized, Lorian, after watching the entire fight over, the only sequence of that entire fight that Conor McGregor lost was the sequence that he got knocked out on. The only what Dustin Poirier did was so minute that even though I rewatched it the second and the third time, I still didn't pick up on it. And I know what happened. Those leg kicks were doing such little damage, but every single time they were landed, they were doing enough damage to at least affect him enough. So in the second round, when you see Conor finally reach down and start finally catching them, it was too late. The damage was already done, and to that point, Conor McGregor's leg was toast, and at that point, he was done. He knew that he couldn't do anything. He couldn't move. He was going to get out of there. Do you have anything to say on my perspective of the fight, that basically saying that aside from like the leg kicks in the first 2 rounds, that Conor McGregor won every sequence of that fight until the sequence that he got knocked out in?
Yeah, I do believe it. To a certain extent, I was talking to a friend of mine earlier, and I was kind of saying the same thing, that Conor was winning most of the exchanges. They were when they were in boxing range initially. Conor was getting the better of the exchanges. Dustin just seemed like he was a little gunshot there at the beginning, but Dustin was catching him with that counter right hook. He caught him a couple times, and he kept pointing at him when he was catching him. One of the things that I liked about Dustin's performance as well is that he had a lot of confidence going into it, because he had taken a few shots that he hadn't taken before. When he took that shot in the first fight, he got knocked out. So once he had started eating those shots a little bit, you could see that he was starting to get his groove. And I thought one of the things that I had noticed from the first fight that they had to this fight is that Conor, in the first fight, he threw a lot more kicks. He came out at the start of that first fight and he threw that crazy hook kick, and he was throwing the spinning body kick. And this one, he was much more boxing based. I felt like he got caught up in too much of the narrative of who's the better boxer in the UFC, rather than trying to be the more well-rounded fighter. And I think he got away from his kicks, and him just standing there and kind of going for the punches and the uppercuts. His leg was hurting, but the sequence where Dustin caught him, because he kept catching him with the counter right hook. And when Conor goes to throw his uppercut, he misses. Dustin steps back and hits him with the hook, and that's what initially hurts Conor. And I think him getting caught too much into the narrative of being the better boxer, rather than mixing in his kicks like he normally does. Like, look how many times he leg kicked Nate Diaz in that fight. Like, he utilized his kicks very well, and he's always been able to do that. In the Chad Mendez fight, Conor, he had poked him in the belly with those teep kicks, over and over again, until he got Chad Mendez out of there. So I think one of the things that he had fell into the trap of was trying to be the better boxer. And Dustin's got some good hands, man. A lot of people like to doubt him, and they like to hold his losses against him, like the loss he had against Conor and the loss that he had against Michael Johnson. But man, the dude, he's battle tested. He's been there and done that. He's won the interim title. He's fought the best of the best, man. And he, I don't think it's a bad loss for Conor by any means. Dustin is just the same thing that he told Daniel Cormier after the fight. He's a dog, man. He's a hell of a fighter.
Definitely. Dustin Poirier has definitely got a chin on him. As you said, he did get hit with some good shots. His chin is definitely way better at 155 than it was at 145. Just final takeaway from the fights. I do think Conor's assessment of just being away from the octagon for so long, I do think that plays just a little bit into effect. But like as I said in the beginning, I do think that he was winning the fight until he wasn't. So that being said, I just think that he wasn't prepared for the leg kicks. It took effect, and then when he's started trying to catch them and and to check them, it was already too late. His leg was already toast. And then it was on for Dustin Poirier. He just hit him like a heavy bag. He was just standing there. He couldn't move. All he could do was sway, and he swayed right into an uppercut, and then right into a right hook. Right hook, left hook. I don't know. He got knocked out. That's what I know. So tons.
Yeah, and man, that sequence against the cage, just him just throwing the bombs, man. Like Conor. You would think that, and I guess he might have learned his lesson against Nate Diaz for not going in for the wrestling, but man, you got to try to do something to get out of the way of the shots instead of bobbing and weaving, because Dustin, his hands are fast, and he's slick with his punches, because he caught him with it's like a right shovel punch, and he had caught him as soon as Conor went to duck, and I remember when Conor fought Floyd, and he said, the thing that he was so disappointed about in that stoppage was he had wanted to go out on a shield. He didn't want the ref to quote unquote save him. So Herb Dean did everything to give Conor every chance possible to get back into that fight, and Dustin literally put his lights out. And now he's now a new sleeping meme with the knockout now.
He definitely.
It's brutal.
I've seen it a few times. I was like, oh, the heart's broken of many fans across the world, me being one of them. I believed, I'm a Conor McGregor fan. I really believed that he was going to get done. I was hoping. I'm actually glad that you brought up Herb Dean again, just one last time, because at the start of the fight, did you see him? Like, what are you doing? Like, how do you say start? And then he's right there, and you're like, wait. No, back up again. He's like, wait, you already started the fight. Get out of the way, Herb Dean. Like, and then earlier in the night, he like stopped the fight, and then he's like, oh, I didn't stop it. Like,
yeah, he was messing up a whole bunch yesterday.
So,
man. I don't know what he was
like,
doing.
Herb Dean has went from the gold standard down to like probably one of the worst. Him and Chris Tione, over the quarantine period, have honestly been the worst two refs. It's just true. Like, they have made the most mistakes over this past quarantine period. It is what it is. Any other takeaways from the main event other than you did it, Dorian? You did it.
I did call it. I don't necessarily think, because a bunch of people are saying now that they think that Conor should retire and that he doesn't have the fire and things like that, and people are trying to make it seem like it's such a bad loss to Dustin, but Dustin is just a really good fighter, man, and it's one of the reasons why I had chosen him to win this fight was because that he's a really good fighter. He's got good boxing. He's a well-rounded fighter. And it's not a bad loss for Conor by any means that he ended up losing this fight. But I want to ask you, because I know that Dustin, after the fight, had said that he either wants a Nate Diaz fight or a trilogy fight. But let me ask you, as the Conor fan, would you want to see an immediate rematch against Dustin Poirier right now?
The first thing I said to my girlfriend last night was, I bet their both next fight is each other. I bet they make that rematch immediately. This pay-per-view sold huge. Conor McGregor's back, and to see Conor McGregor lose, that just fuels Dustin Poirier even more for the second pay-per-view to be even bigger than this first one was. And I saw I believe it was on the Dana White like the Looking for a Fight or something like that he was telling Khabib that this fight was trending bigger than Khabib and Conor. I don't know if he was just trying to draw him out of retirement, but it done good numbers, and I do think that the biggest fight that you can make again is Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier 2. And as I said, Dorian, in the beginning, I do think Conor McGregor was winning every sequence of that fight until he wasn't. Aside from just the leg kicks, what all does he have to change to... I don't know. I would still bet on him again in that fight. I'm going to be 100% honest. I don't think it would go under 60 seconds, but if the fight happened again, I would still bet on him again. That is a fight that I do want to see again. I'm going to be honest, yeah.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if they ran the immediate rematch. I think Dustin Poirier's eyeing a title shot. I don't think he's got his eyes set on a trilogy. I think he would like one. I know he said it after the fight, but I think if anything, he would like to do a title fight, maybe with Oliveira, Gaethje. He already said he doesn't want to fight Chandler, but I don't. And for me personally, I don't know if I want to see Conor in an immediate rematch with him. I think I might want to see him move on to a fresh face, because Conor needs to save face in his next fight, because this position is different for him. Because think about how in his other losses against Nate Diaz and Khabib, look at the way he lost. He lost by submission. So he can say that, oh, well, they wrestled me, or, one of the narratives that he tried to push out against Khabib after the fight was, Khabib didn't want to stand with him, when they stood and he got the best of the exchanges. Now look when they were standing, what happened in this fight. Like, Conor got knocked out. Like, it's different from getting submitted and getting knocked out. And I do agree that Conor did win the first portion of the fight, but I can almost kind of say in defense, wasn't that kind of the narrative going into the fight, was that Conor starts hot and that he typically wins the first couple of rounds, and that as long as he doesn't get Dustin out of there, that Dustin will prevail in the later rounds and end up getting the stoppage. Now, it just so happened that he ended up getting the stoppage in the second round, but I think that kind of went into the game plan of Poirier, was that they were going to try to drag Conor into the later rounds, and as long as Dustin can survive the big shots from Conor early on in the fight, I think that it kind of went according to plan to him, that Conor was going to start fast, start early, and as long as he could weather the storm, he was going to do his thing to either get him out of there or try to eke it out by decision. So I kind of think it almost went to plans, because Dustin didn't get too hurt within the first couple of exchanges in the first two rounds.
Conor McGregor woke up with Smokey standing over him saying, you know what? You got knocked the fuck out. That is what happened. That is what happened. And I'm glad you brought up Dustin Poirier fighting for the championship, because in the interview that he said in the post fight, he just basically said that he did not want to fight Michael Chandler for the UFC championship, that he thinks that he needs to fight someone else first, that he doesn't deserve it yet. So it is a perfect segue into our next topic. Dan Hooker versus Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler came out, put the pressure on Dan Hooker. I've honestly never seen Dan Hooker fight like that, just moving the whole time. Chandler honestly got frustrated. He was like, come on, man, are you going to fight? He was just running around the whole time. So, on this fight, Dorian, what are your takeaways? How do you think Michael Chandler looked? Give me your thoughts.
I thought Michael Chandler looked great, man. He put on a good performance as well, and I had the same takeaway as you did, is that Michael Chandler was getting frustrated with the way that Dan Hooker was just circling around the octagon, and I know a lot of the pre-fight talk was Dan Hooker had said that he wasn't too familiar with Michael Chandler and all of his work, and he didn't fight like it, because he definitely fought like he respected him, because you could see Chandler land one of the first exchanges, and immediately Dan Hooker started circling, and he wasn't throwing too many leg kicks as I thought he would have, because I think he was worried about the takedown. And that was one of my things about going into this fight, was that Dan Hooker is a good fighter, but he has a good amount of losses on his record. He is a good fighter.
Okay, and as Dorian's headset had already died, my camera had died as he was making his final points on Dan Hooker. So Dorian, if you want to go ahead and finish what you were saying on Dan Hooker before we move along to our weekly picks and Khabib itself, go ahead.
I was basically just making the point that Dan Hooker, it seems like when he gets to the elite level in the lightweight division, he always tends to fall, and that Chandler, although he was in Bellator all these years, I do think that he was an elite fighter the whole time, just never had the chance to really prove it in the UFC. and that he had his chance to perform last night, and he absolutely, I mean, he lived past expectations. I didn't expect to see a knockout. I expected Chandler to win, as I did predict going into the fight, but I did not expect him to knock Dan Hooker out in that fashion. So, hats off to Chandler, man, and that was a hell of a performance.
And speaking of fight predictions, we kind of missed it in the recap. You think that I missed it on purpose, but I truly did not miss it.
Try to sweep it under the rug.
I didn't miss it on purpose. I promise. But so our picks for the weekend, Dorian. Like the Matt Frivola fight fell out, so there were only 4 main fights on the card. Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor. You picked Dustin. Michael Chandler versus Dan Hooker. You picked Michael Chandler. JoJo versus Jessica Ai. You picked JoJo there. That's 3. And then Hebus versus Rodriguez. And you did pick Hebus there. So that's 3. The only 2 that I got correct was JoJo, just like you. And I did pick Marina Rodriguez. So that's 2 for me, 3 for you. You are this week's pick champ. So congratulations. I'll put a little belt there. But moving forward, I do feel like we need to do something like different. Like I almost feel like the loser needs to have something beside their picture or on their picture for the entire episode. I think that would be funny. Like
Or maybe do something weird, like take a shot of hot sauce. Or
oh my
like
goodness!
That.
Oh
yeah,
god!
We need to spice it up a little bit.
Or,
literally.
All right.
Get like a shot glass of hot sauce or something like that, and we gotta take a shot of it.
Oh my goodness, that would be bad. I would probably throw up on camera. I want to be completely honest. I don't do well with.
We gotta get the views up, man. We gotta get the views up.
I don't do well with not spicy stuff, but like vinegar flavored stuff. Like hot sauce for me is like too much for me can easily overkill it. Like it's just not good for me. So moving along, I think the loser from now on should have a golden hot dog next to their picture for the entire episode.
A golden hot dog. We'll come up with something.
Yeah. We will for sure come up with something by next week. But for this week, Dorian gets the belt. The return of the belt is back over on the champion side. But I'm actually kind of glad that we paused for just a second. And the hours that we were gone, because it kind of gave me time to rethink what we were talking about. So going kind of back to the Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor fight itself, who would you want to see Conor McGregor fight after this fight? Because I don't want to mention Dustin Poirier yet because we have the the segment later on in the show, like the 155 title picture. So Conor himself, kind of being out of the title picture now. Who do you want to see him fight next?
I think the good thing about the lightweight division is that you can kind of match him up with just about anybody, and it's not going to be a bad matchup. I know one of the names that was thrown around a lot was Tony Ferguson. Honestly, one of the ones that I actually was thinking about, and there's been a little bit of tension between the two, is between him and Paul Felder. I would actually really like a fight between them two because the style of Paul Felder, he can go 5 rounds. He's durable as can be. He's a good striker. I don't imagine him going for too many takedowns. It's going to be a very fan-friendly fight. And I think that that's a good fight because Paul Felder is coming off 2 losses in a row. Even though he took that short-notice fight against Rafael dos Anjos, he's coming off 2 losses in a row. Conor has the loss to Poirier. They're both within the top 6, 7 of the division. So I would actually like to see McGregor fight Felder because I think as far as fan-friendly wise, it would definitely pay off. And then I think as well, good matchup for Conor, top 7 guy, and good rebound fight.
I'm for sure liking the Conor McGregor versus Tony Ferguson fight. I like that one for Conor. I do think Tony is just a little bit past his prime, and it's shown in his past 2 fights. He just isn't the killer that he once was. I don't know if it's the lack of fans maybe the fans get Tony fighting. I don't know. But his past 2 fights have really shown that he is really on the decline, and I do think that the UFC would take a chance at matching Conor up against Tony and maybe getting Conor back on the winning streak. Okay, but that being said, after this weekend, Khabib. Do you think Khabib is going to come back, Dorian? I really don't. I think like the UFC and Dana White himself has just put all their eggs in this one basket that Conor McGregor was going to beat Dustin Poirier, and then we were all going to get Khabib versus Conor too. Conor didn't win, so now what? Is Khabib going to come back? After the fight, in the post-fight press conference, Dana White said that in the meeting, Khabib didn't seem like he actually wanted to come back. Well, then why this whole week have you been saying, "Oh, I really think I can get him back. I really think I can get him back." But now you're saying, well, in the meeting, like he didn't really want to come back. It really showed Dana's entire hand the entire time that he just wanted Conor Khabib too, and it's gone. So, what are your opinions? Is he going to come back? Let me know.
I'm going to get back to answering the question, but I kind of wanted to talk about the Conor thing a little bit more. I wanted to ask your opinion, being a Conor fan, with him taking the more humble approach that he has taken now. Some people were questioning his fire going into the fight, whether that he didn't have any motivation or anything like that, and when he was first getting started in his UFC run, the brass trash talker was kind of what fueled him to become the fighter that he was. Do you think him taking this more humble approach has actually affected him as a fighter?
I personally don't think that anything has changed, simply because he used to talk all that trash and put so much pressure on himself. Like that was his own doing. But now he don't even have to do that. All the lights are already on him. Everyone is already watching him. He don't have to draw any more eyes. He's Conor McGregor. So that being said, I don't really think there is a difference. I just think that he, like, just the time away and just those calf kicks ended up getting him. I really do.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to see, because I had seen a bunch of people talking about that, so I just wanted your opinion. But back to Khabib, do I think he's really going to come back? No, I don't think so. And as you said, Dana really showed his hand by saying that, none of the guys really impressed him tonight, when Chandler and Poirier both put on a very good performance. When Dana said that Khabib said that he wants them to impress him, no, he meant that he wants Conor to impress him in order to get the rematch, so that way they can draw in the more money. Dana in the post-fight press conference, I didn't listen to the whole thing. He actually, did you get to see any of it? He actually seemed like visibly upset.
Yeah,
like
he was.
He wasn't. Yeah, like he didn't actually say that he was, but his demeanor was off. He was very like low key, and that was like it was a solid main card overall. Like that main card outside of and I would say the Joanne Carter one and Jessica Eye fight was okay, and but other than that, good finishes on all of them, and the top 2 fights delivered. And Dana just seemed like he was just as sad as can be, and that's because he's seen the cash cow fight that was Conor and Khabib slip away, and I think that was the only way, the only chance to try to draw Khabib back in. He's already kind of made comments that he doesn't want to do anything to disrespect his mother or anything like that, and he's a very, very family-oriented man, and I think that he's going to go ahead and call it quits. I mean, he has nothing else to prove. He's the champ, 29-0. I mean, what's getting to 30-0 going to do for him more than what he's already done, except for just getting a round number? Other than that, Khabib has nothing else to prove.
On the Dana White subject, I just kind of want to, this has to be how he feels, He has a lottery ticket, right? And he's just watching them pull the numbers on the TV, he's 3 numbers in and he has all the numbers. That, 4th number comes, that 5th number comes and he's just waiting on the last one, and it's nothing. yeah, he's still the president of the UFC, and he's going to be able to make big fights still. But it's almost like, yeah, you won $1 million but you could have won $500 million. Like it's like you can't be too upset because you have great fighters in your company still. You're putting on great fights, but at the same time, that golden egg, that you were so close to, is just gone. Like you're not going to get that one back. It's just like Tony and Khabib, Conor McGregor. It's gone. Like Conor Khabib 2 ain't going to happen.
Yeah, no, it's not going to happen, and really, I didn't think there was any need for it. I mean, even if Conor had came out and knocked Dustin out within 60 seconds, I still don't think that there would have been any need for a rematch because the first fight was so convincing for Khabib's way. I mean, I don't really think Conor did anything to warrant a rematch. I mean, he won the third round, but that was because Khabib was tired in the third round because he mauled him in the second round. But other than that, I think as far as how the fight went, Conor really didn't do anything to warrant a rematch, and the only way that they were going to be able to try to do that is to give Khabib a buttload of money. But Conor's already kind of lost some steam from the Poirier fight, and it doesn't mean that Conor McGregor is absolutely over. But as far as the momentum he was carrying from the Cowboy fight, had he beat Dustin, there would have been some steam behind him. But he's lost a little bit of momentum, and that was really the only way I think they could have convinced Khabib to come back. And yeah, I think Khabib's done.
So Khabib is gone. Conor McGregor officially has a negative record at lightweight. So we're going to move on to the 155 title picture as a whole now. Dorian, who do you see challenging for that championship in the near future? I know you're favoriting Dustin Poirier, but what are the other contenders like that you can see maybe getting that number one contender fight to fight for the championship, or just being the person to fight Dustin Poirier for the championship?
Hey, and I said in our 2021 champion prediction video that Dustin was going to be fighting for a title at the end of the year, so you can call me Mystic Rose because I predict these teams. but no, seriously, that I would actually really like probably the winner between Gaethje and Oliveira. I think that fight needs to happen. I still think Charles Oliveira, although he did beat Tony Ferguson, it wasn't an exciting enough win to make me want to see him in a title fight. And I think Gaethje, him being the number one ranked guy, he just lost to Khabib. Other than that, he had a lot of momentum with him. I think if he is to beat Oliveira, or if Oliveira is to beat him, either way, I think the winner of that fight should fight Poirier for the lightweight title probably towards the end of the year.
Okay. Definitely some exciting contenders. Who do you want to see Michael Chandler fight? Because he's now in there. Like, you can't deny him. He just beat like the number Dan Hooker, like the number 5 guy or
number 6.
So the number 6 guy. So he's in the top 10 now for sure. He has stamped his place in the UFC. Who do you want to see him fight next?
Well, and now I'm kind of regretting that I even said Gaethje and Oliveira, because now that I'm sitting here kind of thinking about it a little bit more with Chandler, because I know Dana said that he would actually like a fight between Chandler and Poirier for the title. Poirier said that he wanted nothing to do with that, so that was what made me say the winner between Gaethje and Oliveira. But me personally, what fight would I like to see more? Oh man, give me that Justin Gaethje fight. The two very similar styles, both heavy-handed, good boxers with good wrestling backgrounds. I think that Chandler, he cut a good promo at the end of that fight, so I'm not going to say that he's going to talk a lot of smack going into this fight and going to hype it up, but he got some momentum behind him now. He knocked out a good guy in Dan Hooker, and to see him in a barn burner type fight with Justin Gaethje, I mean, Chandler's had some wars at Bellator. I know that people didn't see too many of his fights over there just because people don't watch Bellator just like they do UFC, but he's a fighter that's definitely capable of having some wars, and Justin Gaethje's willing to give him one too. So I think now, sitting here thinking about it, now that I'm on the spot, I would definitely like to see that Gaethje fight a little bit more.
So it kind of sounds like you just want to see Justin Gaethje versus the world at this point. You just want him to just line them up and fight the entire lightweight division.
When have you ever seen Justin Gaethje in a boring fight?
Never.
So I mean, come on. I mean, the dude's fireworks every time. So
definitely.
He's solid. He's a solid matchmaking every time.
So, anyone else in the 155 title picture like that you want to mention? Like, there's some guys kind of looming around the outside, the 8 to 10 range. Anyone that you just want to highlight that you just want to see if they can make their run in the 155 pound division?
I'm curious to see where. And I had mentioned it in our fighters that we like to see going into this year, how they do in our first video or on our first podcast, is RDA,
Mm-hmm.
Possibly seeing what he could do. He just beat Paul Felder himself, so I think he's ranked number 7. So seeing him make the move back down to 155, and he's still a championship level fighter. When he was at 170, he had lost a few fights, but he was losing to the absolute best guys like Usman and Colby and guys like that. So I would actually like to see him fight one of the top 5 or 6 guys in the division as well, to kind of see, where he's at coming off that win against Paul Felder. But I think as far as the immediate title picture, I think the only people that you could really kind of put in there as far as the immediate, if Khabib is to vacate the title, it has to be between Poirier, Gaethje, Oliveira, and Chandler at this point.
I think my personal dark horse for the division has to be Mr. Charlie Olives himself, as said Dan Hooker. Speaking of Dan Hooker, he tossed his gloves in the cage after his fight. Do we know what happened yet, or is he done? Like, did he say anything in the post-fight press conference? I haven't heard anything.
No, I hadn't heard anything. The only thing, I had listened to a couple interviews. I guess it was more just a sense of frustration with him more than anything. He had never said anything about retirement. I think they said that he was more just frustrated with his performance, and he was taking his gloves off in the cage, and they said as he was walking out, he turned around and threw them. So it wasn't more of a sense of retirement, more just and just throwing him just because he was frustrated about his performance.
Jesus. So that is it, guys. A wild weekend of fights. Conor McGregor loses it all, breaks the hearts of many fans around the world. Dustin Poirier winning the hearts of many fans across the world. Dorian here, as happy as can be. Michael Chandler making a statement in his UFC debut, knocking out Dan Hooker in the first round. Joanne Calderwood showing why she is a contender at 125, although Valentina is a monster that no one should take lightly. And to start off the card, Amanda Hebus losing to Marina Rodriguez, the UFC's favorite new young toy at is 115, 125, 115, right?
115.
115. She loses it. They had a huge push behind her, and she just dropped the ball. On the other hand, Marina Rodriguez gets a nice finish. Looked good. Anything else that you want to point out from this weekend, Dorian?
I just that the card overall was the main card anyway. The prelims, I got to see a little bit of the prelims, and the prelims didn't live up to expectations, but I think we all kind of knew going into the card that it wasn't, star-studded, because, you had to pay the headliner, Conor McGregor, so, the undercard isn't going to be as star-studded, but it's overall, the main card was actually solid overall with 4 out of the 5 fights going to a finish. So couldn't complain. Good night of fights, and really enjoyed myself last night watching the fights.
So just like that, guys, the fights are over. When are the next fights, Dorian? Are they in mid-February or something like that? Early February?
Yeah, I believe it's not. The UFC's taking a week off, and then they're coming right back. I can't remember who the fight is. Is that Usman and Burns?
Let me see here.
Is that Usman and Burns? I think so. February 8th?
I believe that
right?
might be it. Let me go to events right here.
Or February 7th?
The next fight is going to be Overeem versus Volkanovski on February 6th. So the UFC is taking a couple weeks for a break, but me and Dorian, we are not taking a couple weeks for a break. We will be back here on Wednesday for another episode for you guys. But that is going to be all for this time. Until then, stay golden.